Hello and welcome. If this is our first time together, my name is Patrick Geary. I am an intuitive astrologer and a celestial channel, and I'm here today to talk through the new moon in Scorpio with you. And I want to say too, before I begin, that I will do this all in one take. So that's the way that my intuition flows best. And I thank you for your patience in allowing for things to come through as and when they do, and for your forgiveness if I find myself tripping and stumbling over words as things light up in my awareness. So thank you for joining me for the ride. And I want to say too that as I tuned into this new moon, I found myself sitting, almost I could describe it, sitting on top of space time, looking down at various astrological events as they happened throughout the year. And the brightness of this new moon looked substantially brighter than any of the eclipses that we've had over the course of the year, which is unusual. Eclipses have very powerful energy. They really do bend space and time. But when I looked at the imprint of this new moon, it looked like it was doing that 10, 15, maybe even 20 times more. So the magnitude of this event is really breathtaking. And perhaps that also goes to the energy image that you see behind me, where we see the sky god blowing a sudden gust of wind into the sail of some perhaps surprised, perhaps delighted sailors who are quickly being escorted to their destination off there on the horizon in this beautiful time of day. So we'll come back to why that image is resonant. I also just want to shout it out now because it is sitting behind me, and I know that images speak thousands and thousands and thousands of words. They communicate in ways that words can perhaps not even approach. So, all of that said, back to my words, I'm going to pull up the chart for this new moon so we can just take a quick peek at it together. So, if you want to look down here where this new moon is occurring, it's happening right here at the end of Scorpio. There we have the glyphs for the sun and for the moon coming together. And when we see that happening on a chart here, this is what indicates a new moon. I also want to talk about the physical alignment of the planets at this time. So, a new moon is what occurs when the moon passes between the Earth and the sun. So, we get that really nice alignment of Earth, moon, sun. Now, during an eclipse, this is a very direct alignment, and that moon can actually stand in front of the sun or block it. In this case, we're not going to be experiencing that. The moon won't be directly in that path. It will just be very near that, and it will be at that closest point of alignment to where that would occur. So I want to acknowledge that because when we look at that alignment, I think about Newton's cradle. So Newton's cradle is one of those toys that you might have played with when you were younger. It's where you see a string of silver balls that are all in a line, and if you pull one up and you drop it down, it passes through the silver balls and it flies out the other side. So you see that direct transference of energy as it moves through the chain as it comes out the other side. So when we look at a planetary alignment like this, we're looking at that energy being very easily and smoothly transferred between these bodies. So it's a very direct experience of communication that's happening here between the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun. This is why this is often cited as perhaps the most powerful alignment that we can experience between the moon and the sun, and maybe even why we've decided that the new moon is the beginning of a month. Of course, a month is a circular experience. At any point, we could declare that it's the beginning or the end. The reason why we might have gone with this particular point is because it's an especially powerful aligning activation. And I also want to acknowledge there's something truly extraordinary about this particular new moon because not only do we have the moon and the sun coming into alignment, we also have Mercury down here at 28 degrees of Scorpio. And Mercury has just begun what in traditional astrology we would refer to as its cazimi. Now, a cazimi is a very short period of time when a planet passes through the heart of the sun. So, what we're looking at here in terms of the alignment is we've got the Earth, we've got the Moon, we've got Mercury, and we've got the Sun all in a perfect line, which is, again, very extraordinary. For as many new moons as I have looked at before this and after this, I've never seen one that's happening during this very brief window when we have a Mercury cazimi. Now, these cazimis are very powerful experiences for planets. And I say that for two reasons. For one thing, when a planet enters the fires of the sun, it experiences an intense purification. It is a rite of passage. So, any baggage, any extra stuff that Mercury has picked up along its journey, it's now going to be burned off and shed and released in these cleansing fires of the sun. So it is a wonderful, purifying, refreshing, renewing experience. At the same time, planets that are sitting with the sun in this way also experience divinity. It's as though the sun might have a royal chair and is elevating Mercury to come sit alongside on the throne just next to it, as though Mercury can speak with the force of the sun. And yes, we could say that Mercury is perhaps always playing this role, intermediating the energy between the sun and the Earth, as it is the planet that sits closest. Not just the Earth, I suppose the whole solar system, Mercury would be playing this role. And we do see and feel that. But in this way, it's an especially divine and aligned time. So, this sort of communication, what it can feel like is, when authors talk about, there I was just walking down the street to go to the local coffee shop, and suddenly the entire book appeared in my awareness. I knew all of the characters, I knew all of the storylines, I knew exactly what I was going to write. It can have that sort of a quality or that sort of a feeling where there's just a sudden burst of clarity and we become aware of something that's been sitting within us all along. Now, this does also mean that we need to be open to listening. If we have distracted ourselves and we have filled our mind with many other things and tasks and to do lists, we're not going to be able to receive that information. And I want to be very careful not to describe it as a download or something that's coming from above, but more as something that is being awakened from the inside. So we need to be listening, and above all else, we need to be listening to ourselves. And especially here with this new moon happening in Scorpio, which, if I were to think about a sign that would be associated with deep listening, the stillness and the silence below the need to form words, below the need to talk, below the need to think, even below the need to feel. If we were just to go all the way down into the stillness that exists within each one of us, this to me is where this golden gust of wind that's going to send us right to our destination would lie. So I really want to encourage you over this new moon to sit with yourself, to make space for yourself, to be in stillness, to be in silence, to be in the privacy and safety of your own truth. Now, this is accessible no matter where you are, even if you're in the middle of a rave, you can do this. Also, given how our world works and that we know interacting with other people can bring up a lot, you might really want to cultivate a space, a solitary space, where you can go and experience this in your own energy. And I have a good friend who referred to this as pure aura time. So, a place where you can go where there's no electronic devices, where no one's going to try to reach you, where you can just sit with yourself, perhaps with a journal or a pad of paper if you like to draw, if you like to write, whatever it is that you like to do to access that deeper wisdom, to just allow for it to flow through. And I want to highlight too, there's something else very extraordinary about this new moon. There are so many things that are jumping off the page at me. In addition to this alignment here, we also see that this new moon is sitting across from the planet Uranus. So if we were to look at the physical location of the planets, we'd be looking at the Earth is here, the moon is here, Mercury is here, the sun is here, and then on the other side of the sun is Uranus. So Uranus is also in that Newton's cradle. It's the other side from the Earth. So Uranus is a wonderful activator. That's what Uranus likes to do. It's a catalyst. It gets things going. This is why I got this very clear image of this sudden gust of wind that will blow you to your destination. Well, we might be used to feeling the wind at our backs, and we might be used to some of that momentum coming forward. It's almost like Uranus is adding electricity into this Newton's cradle. And suddenly, it might even feel like that ball at the end flies off, goes all the way around, and comes back and hits the Earth from the other side. So it really is an incredibly powerful activation to shake things up. So I really want to encourage you to embrace what emerges into your awareness, to embrace whatever it is that wants to come out. Uranus is very much celebrating freedom, we might say, or celebrating independence, or wanting you to break out. Perhaps in this case, we're wanting to break out of deeply entrenched thought patterns that have kept us out of living in our truth. That would be incredibly Uranian. And with that Mercurial activation as well, this opportunity to cleanse our thoughts, to cleanse our mental sphere. And the moon, too, speaking so much to our mind, to our emotional mind. The moon also passing through the heart of the sun. So we're getting a chance to reset, to cleanse that emotional mind. And then we're getting this incredible electric activation that's just supercharging everything that we could do. And it's a lot to hold space for. I want to acknowledge that too. And I think that's why I really want to encourage you to just cultivate a practice of being in silence, being in stillness, and noticing. Noticing what's coming your way. And remembering that the more centered you are, the more that you're going to be able to let that gust of wind take you smoothly to the shore where you want to be. If the gust comes and you suddenly find yourself scrambling around, what am I going to do? This wasn't supposed to happen. I'm not supposed to arrive until tomorrow. You enter into a state of resistance. And rather than enjoying the journey, you might actually send the ship rocking from side to side. You might send it off course, and then you might need to correct that course later. That's when we can experience that disruptive energy from Uranus, when we're doing something that simply isn't in alignment with our deepest truth. But when we are pausing, when we are going into that very grounded sense of stillness, that Uranian energy can move us leaps and bounds ahead. So release all expectations about what might be coming your way. Release any thoughts, any ideas, any beliefs. Just invite this deep sense of stillness. And if anything, if you wanted to expect a miracle. This really does have a brilliant configuration, especially as we're still looking at the moon and the sun, enjoying this grand trine energy, this grand water trine energy with Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter and Cancer really bringing us in touch with the possibility, what we can grow, what we can nurture, what we can love into being. Saturn and Pisces bringing us in touch with what's real here, what the flow can deliver to us right now. These are wonderful planets if you're looking at materialization or manifestation, bringing things into the physical world. Again, with that Sun, Moon, Mercury, and Scorpio lineup, how are we doing that? We're doing that by going into our own inner, intimate, private truth and allowing for that to be spoken into the universe from that place. And I also want to give a shout out to Neptune that's sitting right here. So we've got Neptune in a beautiful trine with this as well. And Neptune's also in a sextile with Uranus up here. So that's a wonderful relationship. And Neptune, again, likes to blur the boundaries around what's possible. It invites us into daydreams, it invites us into the liminal space that meditation or stillness can create for us. So that tells me that even more going into the possibilities, celebrating the possibilities simply for what they are. That's one of the ways it can be very effective to manifest or to materialize. If you notice yourself becoming aware of a possibility, simply celebrating how wonderful is it that I live in a world where that's possible. Think about the lottery. How wonderful is it that I live in a world where it's possible to win the lottery? I don't need to be attached to winning the lottery. I don't need to go all the way into feeling into what it would be like, what I could see, what I would wake up as. Yes, that can be an effective manifestation technique, but in this case, to avoid generating that attachment that Uranus might break, or that we might get lost in with Neptune and start to confuse that with what's sitting in front of us now, just celebrating the possibility, celebrating your dream as a recognition of the ability to dream, as a recognition of the expanded possibilities that sit around you all of the time. I want to also say here that Uranus will be sitting with the Pleiades. The Pleiades have a beautiful, bright, loving, heart centered, communicative energy. So you may also find yourself experiencing a lot of delightful, bright chatter within that stillness. So being able to allow that activation, almost like allowing different parts of you to talk with themselves. That can be something that we experience with this sort of energy. And we're also going to be having the sun, the moon, and Mercury sitting with Alpha Centauri, which is a three-star system. And it's the closest one that we have here to Earth. And this one in particular, it can really draw us, in fact, into that connection we feel with our earth. We feel with this loving ground below us. And I sometimes notice that there can be a feeling of almost like mystical guidance that's present here. Like this is our gateway into the stars, as that star system that really is sitting very close to here and very bright, that it can really draw us into the sky. So it has that energy of a portal or a gateway into the expansive universe all around us. So I'm noticing that too. So we also have these beautiful stellar activations alongside all of these planets that are sitting here. And suffice it to say, this is truly a gangbusters new moon. And I think you can mark your calendars and know that where you find yourself on the other side of this will simply not be the same as where you find yourself now. And I just want to set a very clear intention that you be able to enjoy this energy, that you be able to let it take you exactly where your soul wants to go, and that you live perhaps with one of the favorite questions that my dear friend Cynthia Sue Larson has posed, living with this question, how good can it get? So thank you so much for joining me, and let me know how it goes.